I want to talk now to a big investor who's got quite a lot at stake right now. As President Obama and Washington look for ways to turn the economy around, there has been an atmosphere of uncertainty for many investors. But our next guest is a great example of someone who's not afraid of a little risk. Colony Capital's Tom Barrack has become a billionaire thanks to investments in distressed companies and assets. His private equity firm has invested in about $45 billion worth of assets, including Michael Jackson's Neverland Valley Ranch. He's also taken to buying billions in distressed loans from the FDIC. Tom joins us now from Los Angeles. Welcome to the show. Mr. Barrack, can you tell me, what did you like? What did President Obama offer up to the economy and to investors like you tonight?
Margaret, I mean, what I like is President Obama. I'm a lifelong Republican. But I think we have the great fortune of having a man who actually is the American dream, who could be a leader in the middle of a crisis. What I didn't like was the tribes and flags drama of the way his message was conveyed. You know, my belief, just as a businessman, hiring people not only in North America but around the world, is the simple problem is confidence. What the average person who's losing their home, who's losing their job, who now uses emergency rooms as health care, who can't figure out how to educate their kids needs, is somebody to come out and say, this is where we're going, this is how we're going to get there, you're going to have to sacrifice more, you're going to have to work harder and make less, and I'm going to get you out of this to the other side. That's what the American people want to hear.
And that's not what you heard tonight?
This man could deliver. No, I mean, my own naive interpretation of it is you have obviously a well-meaning man who's the most powerful man in the world, and America is still the strongest country. But what we're missing is nationalism. We have tribes and flags. We have a venue which is a joint session of Congress, and in my own mind I was trying to figure out to whom the president was speaking. Was he speaking to me? Was he speaking to Congress? Was he speaking to the Senate? Was he reaffirming his own political aspirations? Or was he telling us something new of a real plan that had some semblance of an opportunity to get done, which I think is a very difficult task for him. So it's not an easy job. It's not his responsibility. I mean, the President of the United States cannot fire his own chef without consulting somebody. So to put the dilemma that we've got in front of us on him, I think, is unfair. The dilemma is us. We have a decade of excesses.
Right.
We have a belief in an American dream that was based on housing that collapsed under most of our feet. And the stock market is a tiny piece of that. The average worker is looking at the proxy for their wealth creation as being in their house. And if they have equity in their house, they buy a washing machine. They go to Chipotle. They buy a purse, and if they don't, they don't.
And there was a mention there of housing that the president made tonight, saying they're trying to encourage more and more Americans to refinance their mortgages at, you know, the 4% interest rates we have right now. Also called on his economic team to do more with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, those now agencies owned by the government essentially that own your mortgages as a consumer. But that was not strong enough for you, for someone who owns some of those distress loans?
Look, it's strong enough, and it's a little bit like trying to convince drug addicts in rehab to drink some more out of the fire hose, right? What got us into this problem was Americans borrowing way over their weight limit and a governmental agency system that afforded liquidity to the banks to be able to move that paper into securitization, which eventually became a toxic waste dump. So I think I look at it very simply, like any other business. You have to increase revenues. I have to eliminate and delimit expenses, and that margin in between is what I have to spend. If I don't have that, if I can't increase my top line, I have to eliminate the bottom line. So housing and the president is not an issue. The issue is you have two segments of Congress that have to agree on a program and implement it, And what we're doing is having adults in a sandbox with tribes and flags who don't play well with each other. And it's an embarrassment in the world. It's not the president's problem, it's our problem.
So that certainty you're calling for, what would that be specifically, though? What does the corporate tax rate have to come down to? What would make you hire more as someone who has, as you said, employees around the world?
Look, I think all of the things, obviously, that the president has suggested, there's nothing new. So I'm sure the political pundits in reviewing this are going to say we've heard it all before. There's edges of it that make better or more sense, and probably none of it is going to get passed because the Republicans, being their own tribe with their own flag, are going to use this as a political opportunity to keep putting the president in the box, which is unfortunate. What works is transparency, consistency, and leadership. Americans will figure out how to make it work as long as it's a level playing field. Tell us what the rules are. Whatever they are, it doesn't matter. If the tax rate is 35%, if the tax rate is 22%, if the tax rate is 16%, make it that way for everybody. Have everybody sacrifice. Have everybody change the view of what the entitled standard of living is. Look at the world. You have Europe in chaos because you had a Eurozone that thought they could have a monetary policy without a fiscal policy and pay for entitlements and pay for entitlements with public debt.
It's an interesting point to end on there because, of course, when we talk about spending more to create jobs, we also are emphasizing we've got to find more cuts to come in the months ahead. Tom Barrack, thank you so much from Colony Capital joining us from Los Angeles this evening to tell us the investor reaction to President Obama's speech.